Okay, I think we're live now. Hold on one second. Let me just get confirmations in chat that people can hear me here. Testing, testing. Oh man, I don't know if they can hear me. I betcha. Let me see here. Okay, let me take a look here. Okay, I'm worried that Zoom like has control of my microphone. Oh, here we go. They can hear me. Okay. If you can hear me. We hear. Okay. They can hear. All right, so you guys have come along for the Batman game project. A few nights ago, I pushed through the journey that was Gotham City Racer, all in one sitting here. And in our journey of completing Gotham City Racer, we came upon the one, true, only Sir Blair Farrell himself. And I would like to introduce his stream debut on Didactic Jam Streaming, Batman Game Project. We got, oh, hold on one second. We got Blair in the house. He's here all the way from the fateful land of his website. Yeah, that's right. He's here. And Blair, I got in touch with Blair on his website, and he totally obliged, decided to come on. Let me just move this up here. Totally obliged, decided to come on, say hey to everyone, and tell us a little bit about himself. But this is Blair. Blair, why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, your story, your website, how long you've been doing this, and also you have to walk us through what's behind you on your camera, because this wall looks incredible.
Oh, sure. Yeah, my name is Blair Farrell. I'm from a province that no one's ever probably heard of called Newfoundland in Canada. I run a website. It was called Comic Gamers Assemble when I started it, but then I changed the name to Comic Book Video Games, which is a far better name than when I started it. Sometime in the past 2 years, like my time is lost all meaning. If you want to know, like the wall, this is just like mostly the McFarlane multiverse figures. Like I got all the, I don't know what's here. Like I have the Gotham Knights figures, even though the game is not out until October, and all the Injustice figures. There's some Marvel versus Capcom figures over there that were like more expensive than what I care to talk about. And to my
Right.
left is this is everything that I cover on my site, like all the games and
Oh
more
my gosh.
toys.
Blair, I gotta say that when I found your website, so I don't know if you saw me discover your website live on air at all,
I
but
didn't know.
so I'm sitting down to play Gotham City Racer, and there's nothing online anywhere about this game. And usually when I start a new game, I try to um, read a little bit about it, kind of like set the stage, kind of get the history of it. And there was nothing on Gotham City Racer, that PS1 game. And then I found your article on it. And you were like the only person that had wrote anything about Gotham City Racer at all. And so as I started playing Gotham City Racer, it was pretty bad. I don't know if you remember playing it,
Oh,
but
it's terrible.
it's terrible.
Yeah. I can't
But
believe you did it in one sitting. Like
I did it
that's
in one sitting. But I took your picture from your website and I put it on our stream because I was like, if Blair can beat this game, I can beat this game. So and I named my file after you. I named my file Blair Wayne. And you were the inspiration. So it was like, midnight and I'm plowing through Gotham City Racer and I was like, if Blair could do it, I could do it. And so I finally decided to reach out to you, and then we got it on. So your website, Comic Book Video Games. How when did you start it? Did you say?
It was January. I can't remember the day. 2012.
2012. And
So it was
what actually made you decide to start a website about comic book video games of all things?
Sure. Well, like it's like sometimes I sound like a broken record, but I feel it's like we have to retell the Batman origin story over and over again. But
the Blair origin story.
Yeah. So it was around like 2006, and this was, I call it almost, I guess, the pre-YouTube era where it was like kind of on the cusp. Like I think the first Angry Video Game Nerds had just come out, and before that there was a program. It was called the One Up Show. It was on a website called OneUp.com.
I remember OneUp.com. I had a OneUp.com account.
Me too, and I miss it so much. And yeah, they had the One Up Show, and it was like kind of a day in the life of the people who used to work in a magazine called Electronic Gaming Monthly, or EGM. That was like my favorite magazine, and it kind of humanized the authors. And I saw them, and I was like, I kind of want to do this. And I kept trying various ways to kind of write about games. And then it was in 2011. It was kind of like comic books had.
Were you writing just casually, like on forums and websites and stuff? Like,
yeah, I had a One Up account, and I think I did some. I had like the Capcom used to have a site because I'm a huge Capcom fan.
Okay.
And then I started like a terrible WordPress site just to put down thoughts, and then it was 2011, and it was kind of like a bunch of things that happened at once. Like the Avengers was just around the corner, and DC just started the New 52, and Arkham City was coming out, and I just couldn't get enough of comics.
So good.
And for like I just started, because I had fallen out of comics, and it was never a good time to get in. But then New 52 started, and I was like, well, everything's number one. I'm just gonna start buying all of these, and I just started going into Marvel and stuff. And then like I played Arkham City, and like after, because I was like, okay, well, this is no fluke. Like Arkham Asylum wasn't a fluke. Like, and this is transcending. Like this is gonna change the landscape of like licensed games, because people are gonna take them. They're not gonna rush them to get in time with the movie, even though this will happen for a little while. And then I thought about it, and I was like growing up, like I used to rent out, like, because I'm gonna be 38 next month. So when I was growing up, like we just kind of would go down to like a rental store, and the amount of knowledge we have in a game was what was on a box. So when I would see like a Chrono Trigger, I would be like, I don't know what a Chrono Trigger is, but I know what Batman is.
Right.
So I'm gonna rent the Adventures of Batman and Robin. So most of my comic book knowledge came from like me renting Maximum Carnage or Adventures of Batman and Robin or like the Incredible Hulk.
Right.
So I just started like at my day job, I just started going on Wikipedia, and I started looking at like comic book games and superhero games, and just reading like about games that no one was talking about. Like there's like everyone knows Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. Like it's a great like character action game. It kind of was the genesis of what would ultimately come into the Spider-Verse. But there was a DS game, and it's a Metroid game, and it's incredible. It's fantastic, but no one was ever talking about it. So like I thought to myself, like, okay, well, everyone's talking about every game, but what if I just talk about superhero games? So I started going around. It was almost like a perfect time too, because it was before superhero games got really expensive.
Okay.
Like I don't know if you've actually tried shopping for these things now. Like I would get like superhero games like a bunch for no money, and now there's
just
people
locally.
They were just
like crap.
Yeah, no one cared about like Spider-Man Edge of Time or the DS version of X-Men Destiny.
Right.
but now like Spider-Man, I saw someone on a local Facebook group selling Spider-Man Edge of Time for like $80 because like everyone is looking for these things now because there's no way to re-release them for the
Right.
most part.
Right. Right.
Like we're getting a Ninja Turtles game this year. Arcade One Up has put out like a bunch of cabinets, but you're not getting like unless you bought X-Men on 360, the arcade game, you don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if unless you own the cart, well, there's always emulation, but
yeah. Right.
like these things are not getting re-released. So then I just started like it kind of just went from there, and like it's never gotten big or anything, but I've amassed like quite the body of work, and like some of the stuff that I've done, like I never thought about. Like I always tell the story. I went to go see a Jake Gyllenhaal movie called Nightcrawler.
I know.
Has nothing to do with nothing to do with the X-Men. But I was just waiting for the movie to start, and I checked my Twitter, and I had a follow, and it was like, "You've been followed by Chris Baker," and I was like, "I don't know who Chris Baker is," but then I looked it up, and it was, oh, Chris Baker, formerly of Marvel Games, now working on Marvel Heroes, and I like told my girlfriend, now fiance, it's like this guy who works on Marvel Games is following me, and now like we kind of talk like all the time. It's kind of given me the confidence like through him and like other friends. Like I have a friend named Josh who runs an excellent channel called Panels of Pixels. I don't know if you've heard of it. You should check it out. Like another guy named Diego Rivera, and kind of like I started just meeting all of these people who are talking about this stuff, and like I've developed amazing friendships and done things I never thought that I'd ever do, like get a book published about Avengers games and interview the guy who did Ultimate Destruction.
So you mentioned earlier that you amassed quite the body of work. Do you have an official article count that last time you checked?
I think it's approaching 1,500.
And it's been all you the whole time?
Yes, I think like my roommate may have done an article one time just to say that she was taking over the logos or something. But yeah, it's been, everything has just been done by me. Like I used to work at a call center, then I had a lot of downtime, so I was just like, well, I'm going to play Teen Titans on Game Boy Advance, and then I'm going to write about it because the Teen Titans movie is coming out or something.
Yeah. So 1,500 articles. What keeps you going in all of this? I mean, it feels like I've been playing the Batman games for maybe the better part of 2 months or so, and I feel like I'm going crazy some nights. Like, how do you keep it going since 2011? Some of these games just do not respect the player at all.
Well, I understand. Yeah, I get that because like not a lot of them are great, but like sometimes you find the really good ones, and you're like, oh, this is not as bad as what I remember. Like, or when I look at things and like when I find something like say like Thor and DS, which is this amazing side scroller, and like Captain America on 360, or like the Punisher on Sega Genesis, like and it's I kind of have a respect for game makers because even though there's a lot of bad licensed games, I kind of don't look at it as, well, for the most part, people didn't set out to make bad games. Like if you look at the history of even Superman, the New Adventures, which is Superman 64, like those guys wanted to make like a great game, but then a bunch of circumstances just prevented them from not being able to, like butting heads with Warner Brothers and getting a bunch of stuff almost kind of was like stopping their progress. So like I almost look at things like what's the intention, and or what was the intention, and like kind of trying to find something fun. Like it doesn't work all the time. Like I paid more money than I care for something like Swamp Thing on Nintendo.
So good.
Yeah, but it was terrible. And then like one night I just really wanted to finish Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on Nintendo, so I just spent like a couple of nights just like studying videos just to do that, just because.
Yeah, right. Do you mostly try to play on cart as much as possible?
Everything is on cart. Like I rarely, because I just have everything almost.
Yeah.
Some things I just don't. I think like I I put out a book about Spider-Man games, and this summer I did a re-edit of it. Got a new cover by an awesome guy named Rusty Shackles on Twitter.
Okay.
And I had my friend edit it, and I was playing the Spider-Man arcade game because I had never ever played it before, and it's never been released in home console. So yes, I kind of have to use like an emulator,
Right.
or like the early Marvel like Quest Pro adventure games. I'm like, I'm not playing this. I'm like, I'm just kind of watch the YouTube videos and get the gist of it, and see the decisions, things like that,
Yeah,
because like it was before my time. Like I know people appreciate that stuff, but it's hard for me to like go back and figure out this whole game where I have to like type in weird commands to find gems.
Yeah, right. Do you have one moment that you can kind of trace back your love for superhero games?
Oh,
Like kind of like the origin story of Blair here.
I would kind of say like probably playing like Batman on NES,
Okay.
because I was 5 years old when Tim Burton's Batman came out, and I
Wow.
had like this sweatsuit, like the jogging pants and the sweatshirt combo, and my brother and I had like the toys, which back then was three Batman, Joker, and Bob the Joker's Goon. So like when the Batman NES game came out, I was like, okay, I have to play this thing.
Gotta play it. Batman NES
And
isn't
like,
bad too. Batman
yeah,
NES is pretty good.
it's hard, but
Mm-hmm.
it's great. And like Amazing Spider-Man on Game Boy, because I it was like the fifth or sixth Game Boy game that I own. And I
Okay.
mean, it's an LGN game, and it's rightfully rough. When I hear people like throw shade at it, I'm like, no, you're just playing it wrong. Like that's
Yeah.
because like I just played so much of it that I just have muscle memory for it now.
Yeah. Yeah. We have two questions in here for you. So first question, I recently suffered through Batman and Robin on PlayStation 1. Have you played that one? The question is, have you played Batman and Robin?
I own it. I tried to play it. I actually have a great amount of respect for what that game is trying to do.
That's exactly where I'm at. I made it about an hour in and I gave up. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, it's just that era of like Arkham. Like people kind of riff on like the Arkham combat where it's just like two buttons, but then you had like Batman and Robin where like every button does something, and there's three different control configurations. But I
Yeah.
really like how it's like, okay, you have to find the clue for the crime,
I
and
loved
if
it.
you don't, the crime happens. It's almost like what Dead Rising is.
Yeah, that's
Like,
great.
and almost wish that like they would apply that to like a Superman game or something where it's like Superman didn't get here and then something bad happened.
Yeah, there is a genesis of a really good idea there of trying to be one step ahead of the villain the whole time, but you don't even know where your next objective is. You have to discover your next objective. Where games now like literally just point you right, and you just like go,
Yeah.
and then you go and you go. And then the second question I got for you is somebody wants to know what's the highest high and the lowest low of the games that you've played.
Oh, lowest low. God, that's tough because there's been so many. Um, I'd say like the Swamp Thing games are up there. Those are
As a
like,
low.
yeah.
Okay.
Um, some of the Spider-Man Game Boy games, the like second and third ones in particular, like I just can't get past the second level. It's something about like Nintendo games where like the language that everyone understood was A is jump, B is everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And then games are just like, I'm going to be difficult and flip that. And you're just like, just don't. Just
Just
leave
don't.
it.
Right. And what about the highest high? Do you remember like a distinct moment that you really were like, this is what it's all about right here?
Um, well, it's like I would say just getting to speak with game makers, because it's like I'm pretty small time. Like I'm not huge. Like I kind of know my worth, I guess. Like I kind of make what I want, and I'm kind of happy about that. It's not a career. Like if I was a slave to like I have to make a Batman video because new Batman movies coming out. But just like approaching game makers and being like, hey, I'm just a nobody. Will you talk to me about like the making of Neversoft Spider-Man? And the designer's like, Not only will I do that, but I'll also give you pages of the design documents.
Oh my gosh.
Like it
Do you
was,
have that? The Neversoft Spider-Man?
it's on my website. Just search interview with Chad Finley.
Okay, okay.
Um, because it was actually crazy because like, I messaged him and I was like, well, the 20th anniversary is coming up. Would you speak with me? He's like, sure. And then he sent me like, here's like pages of the design documents about like the Mysterio bus fight and like unused stuff and things like that. And I put on Twitter, and I was like, oh man, if people love Spider-Man 2000, like I got something really cool to show you in a little while.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
somehow that turned into everyone thinking I had an inside track that they were remaking
Got it.
it. And there was a guy I follow, his name is Liam Robertson. He
And
does stuff for YouTube.
Neversoft in general it has been flirting with remakes, right? Like they're
They've been a support studio for like Call of Duty stuff for a while. Like
okay.
Activision
I
was
associate them with
doing,
Tony Hawk. Were they involved in Tony Hawk?
yeah, like they did. I think like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was like their big breakout game, and they
Yeah.
had like the Bruce Willis Apocalypse game,
Okay.
and they had a Ghost Rider game in development that I got either got canceled or just never picked up.
Okay.
And then when they did Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1, then they did Spider
Yeah,
Man.
I remember that. Yeah.
And then they never got to do any more because they were just a Tony Hawk studio. And then like Treyarch, who was now the big Call of Duty people, took over from like this first movie game onwards.
Yeah, right, right. So when you are playing a game and you're thinking about possibly this article that you're gonna well, first of all, do all games that you play get to an article? What's
For
like a
the
qualification for making it to its way to finally to getting to an article?
Well, most of the time, like I've kind of slowed down my pace a little because like I kind of have a new day job now where it doesn't give me as much time to kind of think about it. But like when I was producing a lot, um, I was always try to tie in into like something that was like happening. Like when Spider-Man: Homecoming came out, I was decided to like I'm going to review all the Spider-Man movie games I had and then rank them from worst to best.
Okay.
So I Spider-Man 1 and 2 and all the different versions and Friend or Foe and like the Amazing Spider-Man games. And like when Thor came out, like I did all the Thor movies and I always try to think of like kind of like a spin, like when Avengers Infinity War came out, I kind of talked about like, oh, where are the Infinity gems in games, and just talk about games related to like the Infinity gems, like where are the gems in the second Marvel superhero squad game.
Yeah, right, right. That's really good. That's really good. Is there anything that you're looking for specifically in games, or like what? How would you say like what makes a good game for you, or what makes a game worth playing for you?
Um, that's something I've been kind of thinking about a lot more lately because I find like a lot of modern games they don't really do anything for me.
Hmm.
I was on a podcast recently called Games My Mom Found. I've done actually a bunch this year.
Okay.
It's hosted by a guy named Mike Albertin. He's a great guy. Give him a shout out. Um, and I talked about Horizon Forbidden West, which is like this big budget Sony game,
Yeah,
nines
right.
and tens, and I absolutely hated it. Like I finished it, but I was miserable the entire time. And my
Hmm.
fiance would come in and be like, "You're playing Horizon." I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "I can hear you yelling under your
Hmm. What about it?
breath."
What about it didn't click for you?
It's open world bloat is what has me fatigued. Because when I play like Guardians of the Galaxy last year, for example, like I absolutely adore that game.
Yep.
It's on Game Pass right now. If anyone hasn't played it, it's also pretty cheap because it's just like it's a story-driven game, but there's no like I'm gonna go over here and there's gonna be 10 side quests and 10 widgets I have to collect. It's just here's a small skill tree, here's the story, it's short, go.
Yeah.
And I know some people, and I get it because games are expensive. Like in Canada now, for me to buy a PlayStation 5 game, it's $100 after tax,
Wow.
and that's a lot of money. to buy a game. So I get the games have to have value, but I would rather like I don't mind paying that much if it's like a compact experience.
Yeah, yeah. Right, right. Okay, so let's pivot a little bit and talk a little bit about Batman games. Do you have an overall impression of Batman games in general?
He's been handled pretty good. I think like I remember watching there's a show called Electric Playground. It's actually still happening on YouTube right now. And in the early 2000s, the late 90s, like the host would kind of joke because one really liked Spider-Man, the other really liked Batman. And I think like the early 2000s and the late 90s were like a really bad time for Batman games
Mm-hmm.
because you had like Gotham City Racer and Batman and Robin, the Batman Beyond game.
Yep.
Um, like there
I
wasn't
just played all
anything.
three of those like within the
Yeah,
past week or two.
I have all three versions of Batman Beyond over here. Like I have a Game Boy Color version on the shelf
Right.
somewhere. Um,
I'm loving.
but
You gotta show the shirt by the way for the camera here.
oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
my Batman Return of the
So good.
Joker.
So good.
It's also a great game that has little to do with Batman. It's
I
just
know
like
that's
Batman with lots of
when we were playing
guns.
it, it was like Batman versus giant spiders and stuff. So funny.
It screams like something that was like another game, and then just like, oh, we still have the Batman license, so let's just like,
Let's just put Batman on
yeah.
it. Right. So you think Batman's been handled pretty well? Do you think he's been handled, compared to other comic book IPs? Do you think he's been handled pretty well?
I think Spider-Man and Batman are up there with like the top. Because even like I missed it a bunch the weekend because I was just doing a bunch of stuff, but I saw you were playing Batman Vengeance, which is it's a little bit rough, but I always kind of love that game, and
Oh, I'm so glad you say that. I really really liked it. I was also
and
coming
even
straight off of that PlayStation X trio, right? So that it was so refreshing to play Vengeance. Definitely has its flaws, but I loved it. It went down so easy.
and even like the because it's weird because in that game, and it's not like I joke with Batman Vengeance because I think of like the design meeting. It's like, how do you want to make a Batman game? It's like, let's make a platformer, let's make an action game, let's make a first-person shooter game, let's make a flying game and a driving game. Like, guys,
Yeah.
you're all right.
Right.
And then they did a sequel ish called Batman Rise of Sin Tzu, where they made like a new character,
It's on my list. Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
it's just a beat 'em up, and it's a straightforward arcade game. But I bought that for my brother on Christmas, and we just sat down and played it, and it was so much fun.
And
But I
you
think
loved
it's
it.
because I associate it playing with him because you can be like Batman, Robin, Batgirl, and Nightwing. So he was Batman, I was Nightwing because I'm a big Dick Grayson fan. I think because I'm a younger brother.
Yeah, yeah.
So it might not be the same if you play it on your own, like especially coming off of Vengeance.
Right.
But like I love that game, and then like Batman Begins, which look forward to that one because that's also pretty great.
I'm doing Batman Vengeance and then I'm doing Dark Tomorrow. That's my next one. That reaction scares me. So
Oh,
I haven't read any I don't know anything about it. Do
um,
Can you give me like a non-spoiler teaser here?
uh, go watch the video by Matt McMuscles,
Okay.
because that game is like a hot mess. Like I think there's a point
Okay.
where like I have the GameCube version and the Xbox version. I haven't really played it. Like I know it controls like a Resident Evil game.
Okay.
There's a point where like you can reach a computer or something, and if you don't hit a nondescript button, then you don't get a good ending, and you can't go back and fix it.
Are there multiple endings in it?
Yes.
Oh. But they don't tell you how
Um,
to get the good ending. You just have to happen to figure it out, is what you're saying.
yeah, and it's just like it's not
Okay.
even like it's like a button, but it's like not even something that you would pay attention to. Like there's no sparkle on it. It doesn't stand out. It's just like
Yeah,
you
right.
can easily miss it. And after you do that, it's just like, no, you get the crappy ending.
Right, right. Oh my gosh. Well, thanks for that. I'm now all of a sudden not looking forward to this game. Okay, so I got a set of rapid fire questions for you that I'm gonna read off, and then we got another question in chat for you in just a second. But Um, you don't have to keep it like one word answer, but keep it sort of succinct, but not. Feel free to get long, but not too long.
Sure.
Okay, favorite superhero?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Okay. Is there a reason why?
Growing up as in a very small town with lots of people who didn't like me, I really appreciated Peter Parker.
So good. Have you grown up in Newfoundland? Is
Yes,
that okay?
I'm born and raised.
Born and raised, the wacky time zone.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite comic book movie?
Not it changes too often.
Okay, what's your current fave?
Well, probably No Way Home
Okay,
because of all of the stuff.
love it. Do you have a favorite comic book line or a comic book arc in that line?
Superior Spider-Man.
Superior Spider-Man. How long is that arc?
It ran from late I think the start of 2013 to 2014, so about a year.
Okay. Wow, that's recent. That's really cool. Um, okay, your favorite Batman video game?
I'm going to exclude the Arkham games. That's too easy. So I'll
Okay,
say the
so my
Adventures
next
of
my next question was going to be favorite Batman game not named Arkham. Was my next
uh,
question here.
Adventures of Batman and Robin on Super Nintendo.
Nice. I really enjoyed that one too myself. Do you have a favorite Batman actor?
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton. Um, you were kind of touching on this earlier, but I'd like to hear if you have a definite answer. Is there somebody that you consider the best superhero or best comic book represented in video games in general?
Like character,
Just best representation of a hero. Which hero would it be in games?
I would say Spider-Man because he's had way more hits than misses. Like there's been some not great Spider-Man games, but over the past decade they've been of a consistent quality.
Okay.
And now you have like the Insomniac ones, which I like not as much as a lot of people, but I mean I can't deny that they're great.
Yeah. How would you say the Insomniac? I haven't played PS4 Spidey, but does that kind of drift into that overworld bloat feeling?
Yes, it's kind of what like my friend Josh, who runs Council Pixels, has a saying: says realism is overrated.
Okay.
And it's a combination of it's too bloated with stuff. It could be a lot of the fat can be trimmed out. It has not great pacing for its story because of its an open world nature,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not a fan of kind of the realistic look like
Okay.
Insomniac games. Before that, did a game called Sunset Overdrive that's
I love
very
that game. Yeah.
stylized, and I think it would be better for Spider-Man than just having like everyone be realistic and every supervillain is just armored and boring.
Yeah. Right. Right. I'm Here's a question in chat for you. From Finnegan16 here. Favorite non-Marvel DC comic game?
Oh, I actually know who that is.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a
He's a first-time viewer, so I figured that you would know who this is.
um, God, that's tough. I would probably say like the Darkness 2 or like the Telltale Walking Dead games.
Nice, great pick. Yeah, that's good. So somebody in chat asked your favorite game for each hero, but obviously we can't like go down the list for all heroes here, but maybe like some of the heavy hitters.
Sure.
So I mean, I'm just trying to think. Who would you say like are the heavy hitters in the comic book game space?
Well, I would say we'll say Spider-Man, Batman, Superman. I guess. Do we want to go Wolverine or X-Men?
Let's do X-Men. Yeah.
Okay. And some of the Avengers are really easy. So Iron Man is Marvel's Iron Man VR. I absolutely adore that game.
Nice.
Um,
Okay.
Actually, on the 1 year anniversary of that, the makers had a accolades tweet, and my website was there because I gave it to the Game of the Year in 2020.
That's great.
Captain America Super Soldier on 360 PS3, made in Canada by
I
Next.
didn't even know that game existed. Captain America 360 game.
Well, if you like Batman Arkham games, it's that with Captain America.
Okay,
The only problem is that it's not long enough. It's
gotcha.
it's like a movie game. It's super short, but I think it's getting pricey now.
Okay,
Um, so Batman, I would say Arkham Asylum,
okay.
or it's hard. I go back more between Asylum and City. I like how compact Arkham Asylum is.
I go Asylum for that same exact reason. City felt
Yeah,
way too big for me, even though
yeah.
it was such a treat to explore it, but it was just felt huge.
X-Men, I would say X-Men Arcade or X-Men Legends 2. Like
What
I think
what is X Men Legends 2?
X-Men Legends 2 is a top-down co-op action RPG.
Okay.
It's kind of like, have you ever played Marvel Ultimate Alliance?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's just that with X-Men. It was kind of the studio who made Ultimate Alliance started with X-Men. So
Cool.
X-Men Legends 2, then they just moved into the Ultimate Alliance series.
Okay. Okay. Um. All right. Do you have a favorite game genre?
I would say action platformers. I've been playing a lot of those lately. Like I just played Psychonauts 2,
That's great.
um, which was absolutely incredible. I can't speak highly enough. And I just played um, a new-ish Nintendo Switch owner, so I'm playing a lot of catch up. So I just finished Mario Odyssey, which was also great.
Mm-hmm.
And I just played Sonic Generations on my Xbox Series X
Okay.
because through some feat of magic, that game now runs at 60 frames per second,
Okay.
even though it's a like 11-year-old 360 game. Like I was a big N64 kid, so I played like a lot of action platformers, like your Mario's, your Banjos, and whatnot.
Yeah. Right. Right. It's great to hear that you have time for other non superhero games. Try to get out and play those.
It's been a slow year. Like so far, we've only had like the Shadow Man remaster, which is if you have played Shadow Man,
I have not.
that's another great non-Marvel DC game. Um, like that's only been it, but like pretty soon we're gonna have like Midnight Suns and the Turtles games and DC League of Super Pets, which I just pre-ordered.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
What type
I
of
go
game?
that deep.
what what type of game is that?
I think it's like a Starbucks ripoff. Like they had like a 40-second video explaining what it was. It's like you're just Crypto the Super Dog playing like a Starbucks game for kids.
Okay.
So we'll find out in a couple of months.
And you pre-ordered it. You're here for it.
Oh yeah, there's no like um let's see how far my tether goes. Yeah, like if we're gonna play like DC Superhero Girls, Teen Power,
On Nintendo Switch.
yeah, I paid like $100 for that bad boy.
What do you have a I mean, no pressure if it's like tucked away or something, but is there like what's a prized possession here on your collection behind you? Do you have
Well,
like a certain item or two that really stands
I
out
kind
above
of
the rest?
I kind of know where everything is, because everything is meticulously alphabetized. Um, so this is the Punisher on Sega Genesis.
Okay.
I have the cart and the manual.
Wow.
Now, this on eBay is several $100s if I was to put it on eBay to sell it. I got it for $0.
How did you grab it?
I had a friend, he used to live here and he used to work in the local game store. And that's when I started buying games for my website. And he would basically give me a heads up whenever one came in. So someone traded in like a pile of games, and they didn't know what they had. They just were looking for like cigarette money, probably.
Yeah, right.
So he just like did the numbers, and he's like, "Okay, here's your money." The guy was like, "Whatever," and left. So he put this in for $0. He's like, "Dude, I got you a copy of the Punisher," and I was like, "Holy crap, that's amazing!" That was
Oh
like
my gosh.
approaching 10 years ago, and
Oh,
now it's just like I have this game and it's probably will never get re-released and it's several $100s.
The Punisher Genesis game.
Yeah.
Um, do you have a? So you mentioned your favorite game genre. Do you have like a favorite game in general? Doesn't have to be comic book.
It's a tie between Mega Man 2 and Resident Evil 2.
Great picks. Great. I'm a big Mega Man guy. Love it. Your favorite old comic book game?
Ooh, that's like I would probably say Maximum Carnage or the X-Men arcade game.
Love it.
I actually got to speak with someone who made a Maximum Carnage last summer, and it was pretty darn cool.
That's great. Your favorite recent comic book game?
Guardians of the Galaxy, for
Nice.
sure. That game is so good.
Yeah, I've heard great things about it. It's sort of like unexpectedly good. Did it do well? Did that game do well? Was it received well?
See, I don't know. Like the reviews were great, and I got a bunch of Game of the Year nominations, and it won a bunch of awards. Um, but I think because of Avengers and kind of how that game played out, a lot of people looked at it and was like, I don't know, coming off of that one.
Yeah.
But then me, I was just like, I'm all in, and then I bought it, and I was like, this is shockingly good. And that's kind of been the consensus of everyone who's played it. And now it's on Game Pass.
Yeah, right.
So
right.
if you're in the Xbox ecosystem, you have no excuse.
You have no excuse to play it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the Avengers game. I just saw it from a distance. Like I saw it crash and burn basically. You as a guy who's lives in the space, was that like a huge heartbreak for you?
Yeah, because actually
That's like the
been
dream game, right?
a little. Again, like I'm not one for games that go on for forever, but I was hoping that because I have like a lot of friends in like the comic book game space, and I was hoping that everyone was going to play it and we would kind of have like nights where we get together and play it. We did it like once or twice, and then everyone was like, yeah, I'm bored of fighting the same robots and doing the same things. And like I've read interviews with the guys who were there, and they're very passionate about what they're making, but like I just can't. It's just, and it's disappointing because like the story stuff is really great.
Yeah, right.
But
And
then it's
you create your
bogged.
own hero too, right? In that one.
No, you just have like a set, like it's right now it's uh 8, 9 heroes depending on because Spider-Man's on PlayStation, but
Okay.
not on Xbox or PC or Stadia because it's on Stadia. Like why
Hey,
not?
Nicodemo in our chat is a big Stadia guy. And I say big very loosely there. He kind of goes back and forth between it's really convenient and it's annoying at times, but also convenient at times. So what happened with the Avengers game? I mean, is that the kind of thing that like there was kind of like this oversight that
Well,
tried to monetize
it was
the crap out of
it's
it?
yeah. I mean, it's a live service game made by a studio primarily known for making single player narrative driven games. So Crystal Dynamics did Legacy of Kain, they did Tomb Raider, and then the recent Tomb Raider reboots, and then they're going to tackle like a live service game. And when it launched, there was tons of bugs. Like I remember playing it opening weekends,
Okay.
and I couldn't finish it because it would just lock on a screen. And it's gotten a lot better, and they've added a bunch of heroes, but like they're kind of hampered by, I guess, the amount of money getting put into it because every day in the press, Square is just like, we hate this thing, but we're stuck with it. That's the buy and they evolve.
Yeah, right. Square has like so many great ideas. They just seem to push into the ground. Okay. Do you have a best kept secret comic book game?
Best kept secret again. Like I always go back to Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions on DS. That game is so criminally underrated. I will champion it to like anyone who like it's a Metroid game with Spider-Man. It's awesome.
Shattered Dimensions is called for the DS.
Yeah, yeah.
So good. Okay, so just wrapping up here. So I'm not even halfway through my Batman game list here. I have 14 more to go, including Dark Tomorrow. And this is I'm not playing everything. I kind of like cultivated a list and
Yeah,
picked
yeah.
and chose. Um, but I'm just gonna very briefly read them off to you. And what I want to ask is, do you have any advice going forward? Just a generic question. So I got Batman Dark Tomorrow, I got Rise of Sin Tzu, I got Batman Begins, all on GameCube, and then I switch over to Steam games. So I'm gonna go Lego Batman. I'm gonna play the Arkham games. I threw on Brave and the Bold on Nintendo DS.
Oh, that game's awesome.
You like it? Okay.
Oh yeah, it's
So I got the 3 Lego games. I got the 3 Arkham games. I've played all the Arkham games before, but I'm gonna replay them. And then I got the 2 Telltale games. So I'm hoping that once I get to like Lego Batman and the Steam, I think it's just gonna like really start to the quality is gonna be. And Lego games are fun in their own way, even though I already know exactly what they're gonna be like, but they'll still be fun.
yeah.
So what's your advice as to get the most out of the project?
I would say like Dark Tomorrow, definitely do like a lot of research
Okay.
on
Okay.
like just spoil it. Just I think there's videos my friend Diego Rivera did a video on it, and again watch the What Happened by Mapping Muscles because he kind of gets into like how that game like happened. Other than that, like you had a pretty solid list. Like Rise of Sinzu, play on easy
Okay.
because it has very strict time limits. And if you play on normal, it might be a little bit too tough if you play on your own.
Okay.
Um,
I just put a note to play on easy.
and Batman Begins is. Have you ever played it before?
Never. No.
Oh, it is. It's so good. It's essentially Splinter Cell with Burnout Tumblr sequences,
Nice. That's exciting.
and the graphics hold up shockingly well, and the way they integrate kind of like the movie footage into the story, and they have like the whole cast, like Michael. Although I don't think Gary Oldman's there, but they have like Christian Bale and Morgan Freeman and Katie Holmes, and they're all not phoning it in.
That's kind of cool. That I feel like so that came out in 2005. There was kind of this like why didn't we get the Dark Knight game? Why didn't we get the Dark Knight Rises game? It almost feels as if like that 2005 and that 2006 jump to the next gen kind of like kicked these
There,
licensed games on a
there
different
was a
track.
there was a Dark Knight game in development by a
Okay.
studio called, I hate saying the name, but it's Pandemic was the name of the studio. They did Mercenaries and The Saboteur,
Okay.
and it was going to be another EA game, but there's videos on them. I think by Did You Know Gaming by Liam Robinson about just like development hell. I think like as time moved on, especially in like the early 2000s, like movie games started to die because I think people just got wise of the quality.
Right. Right.
Like, because you had like all those Sega Marvel games, like most of them, like your Iron Mans, your Iron Man 2s, your Thor, God of Thunders. Like, some of them were good, most of the DS games. But then, like, I kind of like the last gasp was like the Amazing Spider Man 2 on
Okay.
like PlayStation 4, where it was like, that's kind of like the end. I think there was a Dark Knight Rises phone game that actually played like an Arkham game,
Okay.
but I mean, you might be able to find it on the emulator somewhere or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's wild. Is there any game on here that you think I should add that I haven't played? I've been playing chronologically, but I'm afraid that I'm missing something good here. And now that I have your brain, I want to tap it.
I would almost say Brave and the Bold on
Oh,
Wii, although the DS version is a lot better because the
play.
Wii game is.
Are you saying this to replace the DS version on my list, or to play in addition to?
No, I would probably say play an edition or at least try it. It's a simplistic brawler, but it's absolutely gorgeous to look at.
Okay.
Um, but the DS game is it's just great. It's like every level is like an episode. And you have like a different partner hero, and they have like different abilities. It's kind of like almost a sequel to Adventures in Batman and Robin. Like Batman even has like the wall jump move.
That's great. The Adventures of Batman and Robin was such a treat to play, and it was beautiful. It still holds up so well.
Yeah, I only hate the Two Face driving level. That always gives me
I'm trying to remember.
like
That's the top down one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I got lost in the Riddler level too. That Riddler maze. That
Oh
one was
yeah,
kind of
I
annoying.
I didn't know the solution,
Yeah, I had to look that
and then
riddle up.
like, well, I was playing like back in '95, and my brother and I were just like, how do we figure this out? And then they had a rerun of the episode, and it said human brains. We just put in HB, and that's how we
So
figured
good.
it out.
Wow, that is a great story. Okay, well that's it for me, Blair Farrell. I don't think we have any more questions here. Um, Thanks so much for your time. I mean, this was so fun. This whole project has been so fun, and to find you and to your ability to like engage and just enthusiasm is so contagious. So, um, thanks so much for coming by. A few other people saying thank you and how fun it was. So,
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun, and I mean, if you ever need to reach out, just like you know how to reach me, and I mean, I might have a review for most of the stuff there except for Dark tomorrow.
love it. And don't forget, you got to go populate the Gotham City Racer wiki. That's on you, Blair. You're the only human that can do this on the planet. You got this.
Yeah, like that, and like the Fantastic Four Human Torch Game Boy Advance game. I think.
You're the only one. This is your destiny.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, well, thank you so much, Blair, and thanks for guys for tuning in and asking questions, and we will talk later.